Mostly I specialize in the kinetic work because you have that dual purpose option of the movement and then the image of it still. I work 24 hours a day. I work in my sleep. Eventually I get up and actually get into the studio, and I'm working off that idea, and I'm getting my materials out and moving them around and making kind of things. I think I use the kinetic aspect in the sense that it's dual purpose, because when my sculpture is stopped, it has their own presence and image, and then you have the option to actually make it work, and it comes alive. Since I've been doing it from such a young age, it's basically just my thing. And I've created an environment around me that I consider my real art, and the actual sculpture is a byproduct of that lifestyle. The material is kind of an unforgiving material. It's very hard to deal with until you do the right things to it, like heat it red hot, and then it becomes very pliable. A lot of my steel comes from the steel yard in 20-foot lengths that I cut up and forge and, make pieces like that. And then a lot of it comes from the scrapyard also, that's kind of my grocery store. Is I just hang out at the scrapyard every time I'm in town and see what comes in on the farm trucks, And after I married my wife, Emily, I convinced her it was a good idea to live in a truck. And we lived in that truck for 3 years, and I built a trailer that was my studio. It's been very good for her through this education process. She would have never done what we did without me, and vice versa. She's taught me all sorts of things. Well, I've always had a sense of humor, and I'm a practical joker and whatever. And, it's a serious world out there, too serious. And I like to interrupt that with the humor in some of my sculpture. And it's just a different twist on it. You can get stuck in a box with sophistication, but there's no such thing. There's humor everywhere, and it takes care of sophistication. They're part of the sculpture process, basically, having kids. You never know what to expect. If you expect something, it'll never happen that way. This is the trial and error method, raising kids and teaching yourself to sculpt. And it's cool to think that most of them are kinetic. So one of my pieces is going 24 hours a day, all day long. Something of mine is moving all the time. That's a neat thought. Well, I am a collector, and I mostly look for things that there was an artist involved at one time in the process of the development of that part or piece or whatever. In the old days, you had artists involved with developing a product instead of a computer. And so I look for that. And it can be anything from a big, giant cast iron wheel to a pinball machine to whatever. And it's kind of a treasure hunt. I don't actively go out there and look for it. It almost finds me. And I'll smell it, and then I'm heading the right direction, and then there's wheeling and dealing involved, and most of the time it's free for the hauling, or it used to be, It's not like that anymore because it's pretty collectible, but it found me, and I'll give it a good home, so it's a good relationship. My kids wonder sometimes, although, that I'm leaving them a nightmare, but I've always kind of been the outlaw in the corner, and all of a sudden I get the honored artist. It's a definite honor, and I hope it can open eyes to other avenues of art and different thinking processes and everything associated with mine being different, I guess. Me being different. Probably what would surprise you is that I'm more normal than you think. I think other people are abnormal because they've gone into this specialized life and dependent on all sorts of gadgets and whatever, and they don't know how to do anything. They wouldn't know how to light a campfire, you know? And that's an enjoyable thing, sitting around a campfire, just wondering what the caveman did back then, which we're an extension of, kind of, you know? And that would probably be, you know, I've considered myself pretty normal.